Good evening and welcome to Across the Pitch. We're the soccer show for people who think the Wombles are a children's television show.
Righto, Phil. I feel like I need to step in here, okay? I don't know what came first. So there was like, a Muppets-like show called The Wombles of Wimbledon way back. It was in my childhood, so we're talking at least 100 years ago, right? And basically, what did the Wombles of Wimbledon do? They went around and picked up trash. So I don't know if it was some sort of public service announcement or something like that. I don't know whether Wimbledon, or the original Wimbledon Football Club, were named after the Wombles or whether that already existed beforehand. Can't tell you, mate.
Well, I actually... I did a little bit of research on this today, and
Of course you did.
first, we should start off by saying that the Wombles are one of the nicknames of AFC Wimbledon, who are a team that we're going to be talking about on the show today. Even their mascot is a Womble, and the best way that I could describe a Womble is it's sort of like a pointy-nosed looking gopher type thing, and so it's an imaginary character, and so what I found out is that it was the Wombles were actually invented in 1968,
Okay.
which were children's novels by Elizabeth Beresford. And as Arran mentioned, they have actually turned into a children's television show, kind of like a Muppets type of thing. And there's like a pop music group, the Wombles, where it's kind of like a Chuck E. Cheese band type of thing. But evidently, so the Wombles, who are the Wombles of Wimbledon, I guess, are what they're called in the shows of the novels. And then the team has kind of adopted this. And so the AFC Wimbledon, they actually have two nicknames, the Wombles being one of them, the others being the Dons. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later.
And I feel like you might be treading into some controversial territory there, Phil, because the Wombles did predate AFC Wimbledon and were actually the original Wimbledon Football Club. They were called the Wombles before they moved off to Milton Keynes. We're going to get some hate mail this week. This is great.
Well, there may have been a little match that happened in the League Cup today that prompted us to bring this up.
I see where you went there, yes, and that was a bit of a circus. Speaking of which, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all, to the 50th celebration episode of Across the Pitch. On tonight's... Yeah, can I get some circus music for this? On tonight's show, we have a carnival of delights for your oral, that's oral, not oral, and pleasure. Tonight, under the big top, we have Matt, the Wizard Robards, crying but defiant in the corner. On the high wire, Phil, will he ever come down Kennedy, defies gravity while completing some truly amazing mental gymnastics. Did you like that one? And in Sideshow Alley, yours truly, Arran the Carney Convict Ayres, throws more knives than an Eastern European gang in an actual alley. Who knows what will happen tonight as we walk the tightrope between integrity and ridicule. We may even talk about football on a very special 50th celebration episode of Across the Pitch.
That was well worthy of the 50th. Worthy of the
50th. Thank you. I so enjoyed writing that.
I thought he normally says "but first," so.
Oh shit! I'll do that. But first,
make sure you guys head on over to the various social media platforms and give us a follow. You can follow us on Twitter at Across Pitch, and you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Across the Pitch. That's where we talk football throughout the week and interact with everyone on there who wants to tell us how it's called soccer or football or whatever.
And you guys have your own personal Twitters that you guys tweet out about. What are your guys' personal Twitters that you put out your football stuff on?
Yeah, you can follow me over at Across the Mat.
And I am Arran the Pitch, just to be confusing.
And I'm Aki Rising, ACCY Rising, at Aki.
And why is that, Phil? I don't know. I'm just kidding. It seems to be your life.
It seems to be a little. I'm sure that was probably pretty self-explanatory.
I kid. What do we got first on tonight's show, lads?
My name is Phil Kennedy, and I thank everybody for joining us as always. And I'm here with my co-hosts again,
Arran Ayres and
Matt Robards.
And tonight we're going to start off by talking about what happened earlier today, which was the end of the first round matches in the Carabao or EFL League Cup. Call it any of those, they're all pretty much correct. And so now with the first round of the EFL Cup, and actually the first two rounds, I believe, of the EFL Cup are similar to the U.S. Open Cup over here in a sense that they're regionalized. And by regionalized, over here we do, the West and the East. In England, it's a North and a South. And I spent an inordinate amount of time figuring this out today. But it appears that anything from Peterborough south is considered south, and anything from Leicester City north is considered north, at least in the eyes of the line that they draw when separating out from the Carabao.
That's interesting. I'm sure our English listeners will have a bunch to say about where the north starts. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. You can reach us at facebook.com/acrossthepitch. Be nice. Come on.
Or we could give them your home phone number.
No, yeah, there we go. It's just being disconnected as we speak.
We want to start off with a game that was a little bit on our radar because it always is, and that's a team that we followed last year. We followed them, actually, it was in the FA Cup that we really followed Newport County on their run last year. They're a team, though, that just seems to do well in cup competitions. This actually, as of today, they did advance to the second round, which is their third consecutive year advancing to the second round, which is pretty impressive for a League Two team. And this is even though their manager, Michael Flynn, said before this game that they weren't prioritizing this competition. They were resting players. Almond, he did not start the game. And he even told the fans, stay at home, don't come to Gillingham.
What?
Save your money and go to our next league game at Plymouth. Well, that didn't stop them from winning.
What is that?
With a 90-plus 2-minute equalizing penalty kick, our boy Pod sent it into penalties. Newport took it. I think it ended up being
4-1 on penalties.
What are your thoughts on this? Because where I'm kind of going with this is Newport wasn't the only team to say they weren't prioritizing this competition. Our team of the month, Lincoln City, also said they weren't prioritizing this competition. Now, they're a team that only has an 18-man roster, so it certainly makes sense they were resting people. Well, they went out and won today.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you? Does anybody care about the League Cup, and what does the EFL need to do to make teams care about the League Cup? I mean, this is embarrassing when managers, respected managers, are telling their fans not to bother coming to this game.
I don't know, Phil. Personally, that could probably be some sort of mind games there. We're talking the Mourinho versus sort of Wenger type mind games. It's like we're not putting any effort into this. You guys can just turn up. and then they turn up anyway and kick their asses. I don't know. Personally, I think, the League Cup is... It's a third-rate competition, honestly, and the only way I see that competition getting any better is maybe by getting rid of the Premier League teams.
What it comes down to is this: in the FA Cup, we have things like the 250,000 quid for the team for each division that goes the furthest. Just like we were talking about in the United States with the U.S. Open Cup, there isn't really much for a team that's not going to go out and win it. The FA Cup, they give incentive, monetary incentive. The EFL has enough money to say, you know what, every League 2 team that advances past the third round gets 100,000 quid. Anything like that, all of a sudden you've got these teams going out and fighting their asses off.
I don't know, man. I mean, this is a competition that was set up before your European leagues. I mean, there were European leagues like your Cup Winners' Cup and that sort of thing, but nothing that sort of matched the Champions League and even the Europa League. So internally within the UK, this is a way for these teams to get more money, get more gate receipts, and yes, some more TV revenue as well. And it's a bit of a shame that you see these lower league teams not taking it seriously. I mean, come on. This used to be one of these leagues where Newport County may or may not make a deep run, but, that would be a point of pride for them to say in the first round, don't even bother turning up. That's unheard of, I have to say. It blows my mind that they would do that. But anyway.
Something needs to be done to make teams care about this competition, or they need to just get rid of it.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think,
Matt? I think I'm split between the both of you. I definitely think there's some mind games in there. So you got, a guy like, clubs like Newport County and Lincoln City that they're playing, teams that really are kind of, above them as far as competition goes, right? So Lincoln City played Huddersfield, Lincoln City League One, Huddersfield Championship, Newport County is League Two, Gillingham is League One, and so they're playing up, and so I think there's a little bit of mind games going on there with the coach. Like you pointed out, Aaron. Hey, we're not going to take this seriously, so maybe Gillingham's thinking, okay, cool, we're just going to show up and run over them. But I think it's also motivational for the players, so you have guys like at Lincoln City, the 18-man roster, they're going to rest some players because they want to do well in the league, or that's their priority. And so as a player, maybe now you're going into this midweek game against opposition that's playing a league above you, and that, hey, the coaches said that this isn't really the priority. If I go out there and I'm not performing well, that there's a little bit of leeway there. So now maybe I can just go out and play with a little less stress, a little less pressure, just have some fun. Sure. And, then they run out winners. I think it's a great thing. I think personally, and with the EFL Cup and the US Open Cup, whatever it is, I would like to actually see the Premier League teams jump in it earlier. Why? I don't understand. Same way with the Open Cup here in the US is let's get those MLS teams in here earlier. Why would just because Sheffield United plays in the Premier League this year. Why does that get them about? Why does that get no? Put them in there now. They're at the beginning of their season, just like Newport County, just like Gillingham, just like Bradford City, just like Swansea City. Just make them play these earlier rounds too, and let's see what happens. Maybe we would have more upsets. If City had to jump in right now and they're playing all these other games and they have Tottenham coming up, maybe they're not even going to, maybe then they get beat out by a championship side because they're not taking it seriously or whatever it is. And I think that's an easy way to maybe spice that up is say, you know what, Premier League sides, you're not getting a bye for a while. You're going to be in this too. You might have to play a League One team. You might have to travel up to, Forest Green, or you might have to travel, whatever it is. I think that would be an easy way just to kind of make things more interesting.
That's really fascinating, and you raise a good point because wouldn't say that the Premier League teams get it easy, but you have a look at these League One and League Two teams, even the Championship, they're playing 46 games, right. 48 games in a season. That's not a season. That's a freaking marathon right there, guys. And on top of this, they've got these league games as well. At the end of the day, if you've got a team that does two good long runs in the League Cup and the FA Cup from League One, they're probably playing double what a Premier League team would do. Get a bit early. Good call, Matt.
Yeah, I think that's just the way to make things more interesting, personally.
I think you guys could be on to something with the mind games, especially in the Newport case, because it is worth mentioning that Michael Flynn actually used to play for Gillingham, so he may have just been taking a little mind games with his old club too. So
Interesting.
But let's talk about that Lincoln again for a minute, because that is our team of the month. And now Huddersfield, this is a team that actually dropped down from the Premier League. So I mean, this is a team that Lincoln was promoted from League Two last year. Huddersfield dropped down from the Premier League. These teams were 4 divisions apart last year. Lincoln City went in there with, I looked at their lineup. This was changes from Saturday. It was pointed out to me by one of their fans on Facebook that right now they only have 18 men on their roster, that they're playing this 46-game season. Plus, you have with League One, you have 46 games. You have the League Cup. You have the FA Cup. You have the Checkatrade Trophy. I mean, every one of these teams is going to play at least 50 games before the season is up. It's just insane. But how about our team of the month? I mean, our luck with this team of the month thing, I mean, teams need to get on board with this. So far, Lincoln City, they opened the season by beating Accrington at home. We weren't happy about that, but, it happens. Then they turn around, they go on the road to Rotherham, a team that dropped down from the championship last year. They beat them 2-0. So that's right, they're 2-0 on the season. They've won both of their games 2-0. They've not allowed a goal yet. Josh Vickers, their goalkeeper, was named EFL Goalkeeper of the Week. George Grant, who is a guy that they signed in the offseason, this guy is a facilitator. He is going to have a huge year. He has 2 assists through 2 games. I'm telling you, the Imps are a team to watch out for in League One this year.
Yeah, I agree with you, Phil. And do you know what? There is a real resilience with this Lincoln City team. So Rotherham, yeah, they were relegated last year. They're still a strong side. Don't get me wrong. Like, this team had 57% possession against Lincoln City. They had 17 shots, albeit only 3 on target, whereas Lincoln City, 43%, 3 shots, 3 on target. Like, that's a team that's just like, you know what? Come at us. Have at it. Come on, let's go. They don't care. They're at it. And also, thanks for the own goal, Sean McDonald. They've got that grit and determination about them that features, as we said last week, features very heavily in these promoted sides. They ride that enthusiasm into the next season. Go Lincoln, go Lincoln, go. Up the Imps.
Yeah, they're looking incredible.
Can I just give a shout out to Matt Pearce, who is an Imps fan, gave us a great little comment on our Facebook page, Across the Pitch. Thanks, mate. You deserve a shout-out for that. This is why we do the show.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you. I noticed that you're following us on both Facebook and Twitter, and you had some great things to say about the show. We're happy to have your Imps as the team of the month this month. The Imps right now, they're one of 3 teams in League One that are 2-0. Fleetwood is also 2-0. However, the other team that's really impressive, considering where they're coming from, and also a team that Darren Woodhead is going to be doing some special coverage on for us, is Blackpool.
Ooh. Oh, I'm keen for this.
Now, as you all know, Blackpool last year finally got Oyston out. They're under new ownership this year. They're getting about 3 times as many people into their stadium in the opening game as they did last year. They're off to a 2-0 start also, and right now they are atop the League One table. What do you guys expect to see out of Blackpool this year? Is this a team that could be headed back towards the championship?
Yeah. Well, I think it's early on in the season to really kind of make those bold predictions. But they're looking good this year, and this is a big change. Last year they finished 10th. On 62 points, -2 goal difference. And so you kind of look at the turnaround now that, +4, 6 points, 2 wins. This is a team on the rise. And it kind of shows you, I think, when you have such negativity surrounding the club concerning managers or owners or whatever it is, players, it ultimately, when you have that negativity with the fans, it leaks down, I think, into the culture of the club itself. And so, you mentioned attendance, Phil. When you're playing home games and it's not sold out, when you're playing home games and it's not loud and it's not, it doesn't feel like a fortress, there's just this mental anguish that kind of weighs on you, especially if it gets to the point you're playing some of these teams that travel with large amounts of fans in League One.
Well, and it's not just the people not being there, it's also the actual boycotts that were happening where those players were literally walking up to the stadium where their most hardcore supporters are standing outside of it with picket signs.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just this negative thing and it weighs on them. And actually, you go look back on last year and think 10th, man, with everything they were going through, I applaud you guys for finishing 10th, Blackpool.
Yeah.
And now that weight's gone, there's this new injection of energy into the club. There's, new money coming into the club. And, this past Saturday, 3-1 against Southend United, all 3 goals coming in the first half. They even pick up a red card in the second half, and it doesn't even really seem like things matter. I mean, you already had that done, even though you look at these stats, 63% possession for Southend, 37% for Blackpool. That means they sat back and defended a lot, and they still held them to 1 goal in the 75th minute. This seems like a team that's playing well together, that is enjoying playing now, back at home. Things are going smoothly. And so I definitely see good things for Blackpool this year.
Yeah.
Automatic promotion spots, I think it's a little too early to call, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're, definitely in that playoff or that promotion picture come the end of the season.
I agree, Matt. I agree. And you know what? I think this might be a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy here. We spoke to Brett Ormerod last season, and he mentioned about how stepping out onto Bloomfield Road, and hearing that full stadium just cheering the team on, that's infectious. That's enthusiasm. You pick up on that. And I can just imagine those players that were there last season playing in front of a, 3/4 empty ground, walking out onto the field now with the fans behind their back. I mean, that's got to feel great for them. I suspect that maybe midway through those horrible winter months that, there's going to be some horrible results, and I hope the fans stick by it now that they've got their wish. If they do, I feel like this team is going to propel themselves back up into the championship.
Mm-hmm.
Having Darren cover them all year for us, that's really exciting because he does not live that far down the road. And speaking of not far down the road, Darren actually was in attendance at today's Accrington and Sunderland match, so we aren't going to talk about that one too much about on this show because tomorrow morning I'm actually going to be having a phone call with Darren where he's going to fill me in on everything that happened at the Wham Stadium this morning.
Hey, just as an aside here, if we have any listeners there at Accrington Stanley and you see our across the pitch sign at the supporters end, what is that called, Phil?
It's in the fan zone, and from what Darren tells me, it's right across from the beer stand. And apparently, if you're in line for the beer stand and you turn around backwards, you'll see our sign right there.
Happy to hear this. Why don't we do like a selfie competition? Take a selfie in front of our sign, post it to our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Well, Facebook or Twitter. And I don't know, let's send him a magnet or something.
Yeah, and Darren actually has magnets over there, so feel free to find Darren at the Wham Stadium, and I think that he's going to have magnets on him at the games.
Awesome.
Great stuff.
Good.
Great stuff.
He's been doing a little photo series where he has been posting magnets throughout England and different
this is great. I love
signs
this.
throughout the road and such, and we're gonna have more of those. And I guess this is actually a good time where we should talk about a couple of cool things that we do have happening coming to us from across the pond, where, of course, Darren is already a part of our team, but we have Tony Robinson, who we've talked about on the show quite a few times, is he lives in Canada now, but he's originally from Accrington. Takes a trip over there every year, and he is going to be traveling over to a few matches in September. If you saw on our Facebook page today, we also did get some match photos and videos from John Earnshaw, who's a photographer over in Accrington, who's going to be sending us some stuff over.
Yeah, no, he's great, isn't he? I love him, despite the fact that he lives underwater. He's doing a great job. That's an in-joke. If you have a look at his Facebook page, he's like complaining about the rain over there. It is an English summer, John. So come on, mate.
His photos are fantastic, and also we have one more new contributor from that side of the pond, and that's Daniel O'Rourke, who last week wrote an article for us on the Portsmouth game. He actually is an aspiring sports journalist who just graduated. He's going to be writing some match previews for us on the website. Very knowledgeable about everything that's going on in League One. He wrote about Portsmouth and your favorite team, Aaron, the Tranmere Rovers.
Oh yeah, how they doing?
Not so good with James Norwood at Ipswich.
Oh well. Hey friends, how are you? We haven't spoken about Tranmere for a while. Hope everything's going good in Birkenhead.
There's a couple teams that I wanted to get a little bit deeper into. The big one that I wanted to talk about is a team that we talked about in the opener, and I guess we should probably start off by talking about today. They matched up with MK Dons in the Carabao Cup, and I think that Aaron, that's a story that you tell best.
It is.
About the whole history between the MK Dons and Wimbledon.
Right, yeah. I have done several times on this show. MK Dons, I don't know, I feel like, but they're kind of, I don't know, they call them a plastic team over here. And here's the weird thing. Here's the thing I don't get. Like, in Australia, in definitely here in the US, you relocate teams because your base model, your business model in your hometown or wherever it is that you're located doesn't work because your fans don't show up to the show, or you've got changing demographics, which is certainly the case in Wimbledon. And so they were like, hey, there's a brand new town up the road which was built in the 60s. It was called Milton Keynes. I don't know. It had something to do with Prince Charles or some shit. And, you know, come early 2000s, they're like, they don't have a team. This is a big town. Let's just head on up there. They need some sort of culture up there. Let's go. It caused an enormous amount of grief in Wimbledon amongst the fans, and they went and set up their own team, which is now called AFC Wimbledon, the most winningest team in history. I believe they went up 12 divisions or something ridiculous like that to be fighting now in League One. How did I go?
You nailed that one. And so yeah, they actually made it all the way to the point where last year they were in League One and MK Dons were in League Two. So they actually surpassed the old Wimbledon. This year, MK Dons came up. They're both playing in League One. Then they had the pleasure of drawing each other in the League Cup. Let's just say that these are two teams that aren't going to be loaning players between each other anytime soon.
No, but I don't expect any pitched battles in the streets either, you know. It's like, kind of like, yeah, okay, here we are. This is kind of a nice little, what's the word for it now? You know, when something nice matches up and you're like, oh, look at this, isn't this fun?
Well, there's still some bad blood over the nickname, the Dons, where both teams kind of feel like that they're the rightful Dons, and I think that's really from what I can tell, that's where most of the drama comes down to. Is basically Milton Keynes is like, well, we're the original team that's always been called the Dons, where AFC Wimbledon is like, well, no, we're Wimbledon. We're where the Dons are from. You stole our team. Call them something else. And that's kind of how the drama breaks down from what I understand.
All right. Yeah. Let's put this into an American perspective, okay? So the Rams, right? The Rams went from LA to St. Louis, and then they went back to LA. Well, I mean, St. Louis doesn't have a team. I'm sorry about that, guys, truly.
What I think is a better
analogy.
Yeah.
So here in Phoenix, we have the Phoenix Coyotes, and then the Phoenix Coyotes were originally the Winnipeg Jets, and then the Winnipeg Jets moved to Phoenix and became the Coyotes.
Oh my God, Phil! Hey, I have a Winnipeg's Jets shirt in my drawer. It was at like an old Goodwill. Seriously, not even kidding you. Go ahead.
Where I was going with that, and it might be interesting which Winnipeg Jets shirt is, because so the Coyotes move here, they continue to celebrate the history of the old Winnipeg Jets, like hanging the jersey numbers of players that have played in Winnipeg and things like that here. And then Winnipeg went and got their own expansion team. They're called the Jets. So now there's an old Winnipeg Jets and a new Winnipeg Jets. Or like in the NFL where the Cleveland Browns moved to Baltimore, became the Ravens, and then now there's the expansion Cleveland Browns. However, in that specific situation, when Cleveland moved to Baltimore, it was declared by the league that the old Browns history became the new Browns history, and Baltimore's history started when they moved. That was something that was declared by the league in that situation.
Dude, wow, that's a big call.
I mean, I'm pretty sure, didn't the owner of MK Dons eventually give all the history and everything back to AFC Wimbledon?
Matt, I think you're onto something there. I do believe that is what happened. He basically said, let's be done with this. We're starting anew.
So very similar to what happened with the Browns. Once the Browns got that expansion team, the NFL said, okay, then all the history essentially reverts back to Cleveland. And I'm pretty sure the owner of MK Dons, in an attempt to make peace and kind of bury the hatchet, did the same thing. Just gifted all kind of the history and everything back over to AFC Wimbledon once they formed, and that's where we're at now.
It's a fascinating story. It really is a fascinating story.
It's sad, man. Yeah. It happens so much over here that I think we're just used to it, right? LA Rams move from LA to St. Louis back to LA. Chargers go from San Diego to LA. Oakland Raiders are going to Vegas. It's become so the norm for us. But I think over there it's so different, right? These are teams that are hundreds of years old. They started out in pubs. They started out in neighborhoods. They started out in schools and churches, whatever it is. And so for and so for one of those just to be ripped out of a community is kind of crazy.
You're right. You're absolutely spot on, Matt. And that is the huge difference. Also, they're not franchises. A lot of these, some of them public entities, a lot of them are fan-owned clubs. You rarely see those movements over there in England, and I can kind of understand that sort of acrimony there with MK Dons in a sense, but I also kind of understand it from a business sense. And Milton Keynes aren't complaining either. Like, they've got a football team, eh? They're legit. They're a legit town now. They've got a football team.
Now, Wimbledon, the reason that they're especially on our radar is because this Saturday they have a matchup with Accrington. Accrington Stanley will be traveling to play AFC Wimbledon. Now, as you may remember, last year, Arran made a bit of a huge call when Wimbledon was in the depths of the 24th position. He made the call that they would not get relegated. And now, just to give you a little bit of a history here, so last season, especially at the beginning of the year, Wimbledon was horrible. They lost 8 in a row at one point.
Yeah.
They've lost 13 of 15 at one point. This was all before the calendar turned to 2019. During the January transfer window, they made 4 signings, including a couple guys that are still on the roster, Shane McLaughlin and Dylan Connolly. They bolstered their roster. They were able to come back, and they went undefeated in their last 7 games of the year, got 11 points with 2 wins and 5 draws to end up level with Plymouth Argyle on 50 points and stayed up based on goal differential. It was quite the trauma, if you will.
Yeah.
The bold prediction, I think that came down to the very last minute of the very last game of the very last day of the season. It was incredible. Also, I know that was a bold prediction. I think I just pulled that out of my ass, to be honest with you. Because even, a broken clock is right twice a day. So, yay me.
You probably made that prediction on Dollar Beer Night, huh?
Well, the big hero for Wimbledon was Joe Pigott last year. He had 15 goals, was their leading scorer. He was especially strong down the stretch, though. He had 7 goals in the last 11 games, 2 goals against Wickham in the second to the last game of the season, and those 3 points, those were really the 3 points that I think were what made them be able to be in a position to stay up. This year, they've had a little bit of a shakeup. There was some rumors in late June that Pigott might be headed to Reading. He has ended up staying. However, they did lose their goalie, Arran Ramsdale, and I'm going to assume he was pretty good because he's starting in Bournemouth now in the Premier League.
Yeah. Not that there was really much that poor old Eddie Howe could really rely upon because he kind of lost a keeper there, didn't he? And so Arran came on and seemed to do a pretty good job. So well done, Arran Ramsdale. How about Will Nightingale, Mr. Wimbledon, as you call him? I don't know. I reckon I should be called Mr. Wimbledon after my amazing call last year.
Will Nightingale, he's Mr. Wimbledon, if you will, because this is a guy, he's been with the club since he was 8 years old. That's his 6th season with the senior
How old is this
club.
kid? How old are kids these days? I don't even know anymore. 8 years old, 2004.
8 years
crap,
old.
I'm old. Oh, God, this annoys me. Carry on.
Well, he's 23 now, so he's been with the club for 15 years. This is his 6th season with the senior club. Last year was kind of his breakout season. He had 37 starts. Now, he's a center back. He's one of your shutdown kind of guys. He's only ever scored 1 goal, so he's not a goal scorer. He is a pure defensive big center back, and there was some big clubs after him, but this is going to warm your heart. He wanted to stay in Wimbledon and signed an extension to stay there last March.
Good for him.
Nightingale and Pigott are kind of right now, they're the 2 strongholds, if you will, at Wimbledon. But this is a team that, this is going to be their 4th year in League One since being promoted. They finished 15th, then 18th, then last year 20th. barely
Bit of a
hung
backslide
on.
there, isn't it? Yeah.
And now they've lost their goalkeeper. This is a team that I think that they're going to be in trouble. And this is certainly a game that I think Accrington needs to capitalize and at least take a point out.
Yeah, I think they kind of have to. This is one of those ones where Accrington needs to kind of step up. Yes, they have had some changes to personnel there. They've been positive, no doubt, but they kind of need to have that killer instinct which they've been lacking. This is an opportunity for them to really punish a team that's down their luck.
Let's talk about League Two a little bit, because we've gone on and on and on about League One, and I think we've left ourselves a little short on time for League Two. But there's some interesting stuff going on down there. And one thing that has caught my eye is the struggles of a team that was relegated from League One last year. That is Scunthorpe, who are now on the basement of League Two, and things are not looking good.
No, I think they're in for a double relegation. I mean,
that's going to be a relegation that hurts too. That one,
dropping out of the football league back down to the National League. I mean, it's they've had a rough go. 4-1.
How does the team get this bad? How does the team get this bad? Is this poor management again? Is this what we're looking at?
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Scunthorpe is the next one that comes out that we started hearing about, the owner not doing this and the owner not doing that. I mean, it's got to be hard being – go ahead.
Wasn't there rumblings last year already about Scunthorpe having some financial issues?
You know what? I can't remember if anything came out, but to be honest, how many of those stories were coming out last year?
Well, every week.
It was every week, right? So they could have been. But yeah, it's not looking good for them for sure.
Well, one thing is, so now in their first shoot.
Sorry, I have to interject here. I just looked up while we were talking Scunthorpe, and they may have actually a real problem, which I hadn't comprehended before. And you know what? They're going to have a real problem in spreading their brand, because there is such a thing as called, and I'm going to quote this from Wikipedia, is the Scunthorpe problem, which is the unintentional blocking of website, emails, forum posts, or search results by spam filters because it has
That should have been across the news desk. That's your across the news desk right there.
It is actually a real thing. I'm super surprised by that. The Wikipedia, like that, my Google to Wikipedia. That is the Scunthorpe problem. Sorry, guys. You can't buy your shirts. You can't buy your game day tickets because you've been spam filtered. Oops.
Well, on the field, things aren't looking much better, because so far they're 0-2 this year. They have a -5 goal differential. They played Cheltenham and lost 4-1. Cheltenham was a 16th place team last year. Swindon Town, who they lost to, were 12th place last year. These are not powerhouses that they're playing. On the bright side, it does seem that they're close to signing Shrewsbury Town winger. I'm probably going to mess this up. Abo Issa. And so it looks like they're trying to at least add some pieces to maybe beef up the offense a little bit, it sounds like.
That'll be good.
Yeah.
Now, at the other end of the table is a team that also got relegated, and they were that team that lost out that tiebreaker with AFC Wimbledon. That is Plymouth Argyle, the Sox, as I like to call them.
That's something I learned last season. Thank you, Phil.
They were one of the favorites coming into it. After the first two games, it looks like Plymouth may only be spending one season in League Two. What do you guys think?
Yeah, man, strong start. No goals conceded in the two games. 3-0, the first week. 1-0 this past weekend. So I mean, they're looking strong, but I think that's kind of expected for a team that dropped out of League One. This is what you expect. Definitely not Scunthorpe sitting at the other side of the table. I would say Plymouth Argyle's is looking great right now. If they can just keep up this run of form. It's a long season. They're gonna slip up along the way, but racking up these wins early, padding that goal difference early is going to be huge.
I'd also like to give a shout out to Grimsby Town. My mate Justin back home in Australia asked, what's the iFollow feature like? And I said, for Grimsby, it's probably going to be pretty ordinary commentary, but you'll watch the game. And, they had a win and a draw. They're doing okay. They're in fourth. So, hello, Grimsby.
Nice.
The other teams that I think everybody has their eyes on are, of course, Salford and Leyton Orient. Just because these clubs have some money behind them, Orient has the history behind them. Salford kind of has that villain factor behind them with the Big Six. And right now, the
class of 96.
The results have been kind of mixed. Each team has one win and one loss, and Salford took it pretty hard on the nose from Leeds in a game where a guy that Arran will remember very well, Eddie Nikesha, is now playing for Leeds, and he was giving Salford a hard time today.
Good. Boo, Salford. Boo. I have no time for them. Crawley Town also gave them a bit of a dusting on the weekend as well.
All right. Well, that was a lot of League One, but that's what people seem to be asking for, and we love it. And we love talking about Accrington, Stanley. And we're having a lot of fun with our team of the month, the Imps. We will be back next week. And just to remind you one more time, I will be talking to Darren tomorrow morning. He was at the Accrington Sunderland game. We're going to go over that. We're also going to talk a little gambling for those who are so inclined. And also, we're going to have more match previews coming out. We're going to have one coming out on the Accrington and Wimbledon game. We're also going to have match previews on Lincoln City against Southend United, and our most massive match preview of the week, Sunderland against Portsmouth.
That'll be a good one,
Looking forward to that one.
All right, guys. Thank you again for joining me. For my brother from down under.
My mate from State 48 and my friend over there, Mr. Wizard.
Hey, you guys have a good night.
Have a great night.
Good night.